And of course, we wouldn't have closed that billion-peso deal without the brilliant negotiation skills of the eldest daughter, Savannah Monteverde. Let's give her a round of applause. Ang boses ni Don Ricardo Monteverde, ang patriarch ng isa sa pinakamayamang pamilya sa bansa, ay umalinggaw sa grand ballroom ng kanilang mansyon. Palakpakan. Mga ngiti. Mga papuri. Lahat para kay Savannah, ang perpektong anak, ang matalinong CEO in training, ang pride ng Monteverde clan. Si Solen, ang rebellious bunso, ay tahimik lang na nakaupo sa isang sulok, feeling more like a forgotten decoration than a part of the family. Naka-designer dress siya. Nakaayos ang buhok. Pero para saan? Para panoorin na naman kung paano sambahin ng lahat ang T-perfect niyang ate. Nakakasawa na. Bakit siya palagi, bulong ni Solen sa sarili, yung sama ng loob niya, parang kumukulong bulkan na malapit ng sumabog. Ako, kailan kaya nila ako mapapansin? Kailan kaya nila makikita na may Solen din na Monteverde? She took another large gulp of champagne, her fourth one for the night. The alcohol was starting to buzz in her head, fueling her resentment. Hindi na niya kaya. Bigla siyang tumayo, medyo unsteady on her designer heels. All eyes turned to her. Perfect. Excuse me, everyone, she said, her voice a little too loud, a little too slurred. But I think I've had enough of this Savannah show. Kinuha niya yung baso ng champagne sa katabing table at itinaas. A toast. To my sister, Savannah. The perfect daughter, the perfect heiress, the perfect pretender. Gasps rippled through the room. Don Ricardo's face turned crimson. Savannah looked mortified. Solen, what is the meaning of this? Don Ricardo thundered. The meaning, Papa? Solen loved a harsh, bitter sound. The meaning is, I'm tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being compared. Tired of being me. With that, she dramatically threw her champagne glass onto the marble floor, where it shattered into a million pieces, much like her own fragile composure. Then, she stormed out of the ballroom, ignoring the shocked whispers and her father's furious shouts. She ran. Hindi niya alam kung saan siya pupunta. Basta, kailangan niyang makalayo. Nakalabas siya ng mansyon, yung malamig na hangin ng gabi, medyo gumising sa kanya, pero yung alak at sama ng loob, mas matindi pa rin. As she stumbled towards the main gate, she overheard voices from her parents' private study, the window slightly ajar. It was Savannah and their parents. As don't know what to do with that girl anymore, Ricardo, her mother, Donna Beatrice, was saying, her voice laced with exasperation. She's becoming such a burden. Palaging gumagawa ng eksena. Nakakahiya. She's just jealous of you, Savannah, anak, Don Ricardo said. She knows she can never be as good as you. Wala siyang direksyon sa buhay. Puro pasaway. Maybe we should just send her abroad, Savannah suggested, her voice surprisingly cold. Para hindi na siya makagulo dito. Let her find her own way. Or mess up her own life. Basta malayo sa atin. Burden. Jealous. Mess up her own life. The words, like daggers, pierced Solen's already wounded heart. So, yun pala ang tingin nila sa kanya. Isang pabigat. Isang gulo. Kahit ang perpekto niyang ate, gusto na siyang itapon. Tears streamed down Solen's face, mixing with the alcohol-fueled anger. Hindi na niya kaya. She felt so alone, so misunderstood, so unloved. Nakita niya ang isa sa mga family cars parked near the gate, yung makina, umaandar. The driver's side door was open. It was Jackson, the new driver. He had only been working for them for a few weeks. Tahimik lang ito palagi, misteryoso, yung mga mata niya, parang laging may malalim na iniisip. Solen barely knew him. But in her drunken, desperate state, an impulsive idea formed in her mind. She stumbled towards the car and practically fell into the passenger seat. Jackson, who was checking something under the hood, looked up, surprised. Ma'am Solen? Anong ginagawa niyo dito? Hating gabi na po. Take me away from here, Jackson, Solon slurred, her voice thick with tears and champagne. Just drive. Anywhere. Basta malayo dito. Malayo sa kanila. Jackson stared at her tear-streaked face, her disheveled designer dress, the smell of expensive alcohol clinging to her. He could see the raw pain in her eyes, the desperation. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then, he slowly closed the hood of the car, got into the driver's seat, and buckled his seatbelt. He didn't ask any questions. He didn't tear aside to reason with her. He just looked at her, his usually unreadable eyes now holding a flicker of something. Understanding. Pity. Or was it a shared sense of wanting to escape? Saan po tayo pupunta, Ma'am Solon? He asked, his voice calm, steady. Kahit saan, Solon whispered, her head lolling against the window. Basta-basta yung walang makakakilala sa akin. Yung walang Monteverde. Jackson nodded slowly. Sige po, ma'am. He put the car in gear. Pero baka hindi niyo magustuhan yung pupuntahan natin. As don't care, Solon mumbled, her eyes already starting to close. Just go. And with that, Jackson drove out of the opulent gates of the Monteverde mansion, leaving behind the shattered champagne glass, the shocked whispers, and the family that had made Solon feel like a burden. He drove through the sleeping city, then onto the dark, winding provincial roads. Solon was fast asleep in the passenger seat, oblivious to where they were going. Jackson glanced at her sleeping form. There was a strange, almost protective look in his eyes. He knew he was probably going to lose his job over this. He knew he was taking a huge risk. Pero yung nakita niyang sakit sa mga mata ni Solon, parang may kung anong kumirot sa puso niya. Sa probinsya ko kita dadalhin, Ma'am Solon, he whispered, more to himself than to her. Sa lugar kung saan walang hahatol sa'yo. Sa lugar kung saan baka sakaling mahanap mo iyong sarili mo. The sama ng loob that had consumed Solon was momentarily forgotten, replaced by the oblivion of alcohol-induced sleep. But she was heading towards a new kind of chaos, a new kind of challenge. And the mysterious driver beside her, he was about to turn her world upside down, in more ways than one. Solon woke up with pounding headache and the distinct, unfamiliar smell of kalabaw. Minulat niya ang mga mata niya. The soft, plush leather seats of the family car were gone. Instead, she was lying on a hard, woven banig, inside a small, dimly lit room made of bamboo and nipa. Sa labas, naririnig niya ang tilaok ng manok at ang mahinang ugong ng mga kuliglig. What the? Nasaan ako? Solon bolted upright, her head spinning. The events of last night came rushing back, the party, the fight, her drunken escape with Jackson. She scrambled off the papag, her expensive, now slightly muddy, designer gown feeling ridiculously out of place in the rustic surroundings. Lumabas siya ng kwarto at napasigaw. She was in Bahay Kubo. It's real, honest-to-goodness Bahay Kubo, standing in the middle of a rice paddy. Green, endless rice paddy stretched out as far as the eye could see, shimmering under the morning sun. May mga kalabaw na nagpapalamig sa putikan. May mga magsasakang nakasalakot na nagtatanim. This was a nightmare. Jackson, she shrieked, her voice echoing across the peaceful fields. Jackson, where the hell are you? Jackson emerged from the back of the kubo, carrying a pail of freshly drawn water from a nearby Puso. He was wearing a simple, worn-out sando and shorts, his feet bare and muddy. He looked different. More rugged, more at home, less like the mysterious Monteverde driver and more like a farmer. Gising ka na pala, Ma'am Solon, he said calmly, as if waking up in a nipa hut in the middle of nowhere was the most normal thing in the world. Magandang umaga. Nasa giri. Maligaya po tayo. Giri. Maligaya? Solon repeated, her voice incredulous. Maligaya? Are you kidding me? This place looks like it's stuck in the Stone Age. And why am I here? I told you to take me anywhere, not to freaking Jurassic Park. Her irritation was reaching epic proportions. Jackson just sighed. Sabi niyo po, kahit saan basta malayo sa pamilya niyo. Ito po ang probinsya ko. Dito po ako lumaki. Your province? Solon gestured wildly at the surroundings. You live here. With the carabaos and the mud. Her designer heels, which she had kicked off sometime during her drunken stupor in the car, were now caked in mud near the hagdanan. Kadiri. Opo, Jackson said simply, unoffended by her disgust. Masaya naman po dito. Tahimik. Payapa. Payapa. Solon shrieked again. I'm going to have a panic attack. I need the phone. I need to call Mavlolo. He'll send a helicopter for me. She frantically searched for her designer handbag. Thank God, it was on the papag. She fumbled for her latest iPhone. No signal. What? No signal. Are you serious? This was beyond a nightmare. This was a horror movie. Just then, two young women emerged from the kubo, their faces bright and smiling. They were both pretty, with sun-kissed skin and long, dark hair. They looked like younger, female versions of Jackson. Kuya Jackson, gising na pala si Ate Ganda, said the slightly older one, her voice cheerful. Wow, kuya, ang ganda niya nga. Para siyang artista sa zihi, added the younger one, her eyes wide with admiration. Jackson smiled warmly at them, a smile Solon had never seen before. Jaya, Lilet, si Maam Solon nga pala. Bisita natin. He then turned to Solon. Maam Solon, mga kapatid ko po, si Jaya at si Lilet. Jaya, the older sister, stepped forward and offered Solon a small, dead-eye smile. Welcome po sa Kirjiv. Maligaya, Ate Solon. Pasensya na po kayo sa mumunti naming tahanan. Lilet, the younger one, bounced excitedly. Ate Solon, gusto niyo po ng kape? O mainit na tsokolate? Bagong pitas po yung kakao namin. The genuine warmth and friendliness of Jackson's sisters caught Solon off guard. It was so different from the cold, calculating world she was used to. For a moment, her anger faltered. But then, she remembered where she was, and her pride kicked in. Look, I appreciate the hospitality, Solon said, trying to sound firm despite the lingering effects of her hangover and the overwhelming culture shock. But can't stay here. I need to go back to Manila. Now. Jaya and Lelet looked at Jackson, then back at Solon, their smiles fading slightly. Maam Solon, Jackson said, his voice calm but firm. Walang biyahe ng bus pabalik ng Maynila hanggang bukas ng hapon. At yung kotse ng pamilya nyo iniwan ko na po yun sa pinakamalapit na bayan, sa garahe ng kaibigan ko. Para hindi tayo masundan. What? Solon shrieked for what felt like the 100th time that morning. So, I'm stuck here. With you? In this diskubo. The katatawanan of her situation was starting to dawn on her, but it wasn't funny. It was infuriating. Pansamantala lang naman po, Maam Solon, Jackson said. Hanggang sa magdesisyon kayo kung ano talaga ang gusto niyong gawin. What I want to do is leave. Solon declared, her pride wounded. If you won't take me back, then I'll find someone who will. I'll pay them. I have money. She fumbled for her wallet, pulling out a wad of cash. Jaya and Lelet looked at the money with wide eyes, then looked at each other, silent communication passing between them. Jackson just shook his head. Walang masyadong sasakyan dito, Maam Solon. At yung mga tricycle driver, hindi sila basta-basta bumibiyahe pa Maynila. Lalo na kung biglaan. He paused, then looked her straight in the eye. Kung gusto niyo pong umalis ngayon, isa lang po ang paraan. And what's that? Solon demanded. Lakad po, Jackson said, his expression unreadable. Maglakad po kayo. Mga 2 araw din po siguro yun bago kayo makarating sa highway kung saan may regular na bus. Solon stared at him, aghast. Maglakad? For 2 days. In her designer gown and muddy heels. He had to be kidding. But the look on Jackson's face told her he was dead serious. He had given her an ultimatum. Her pride warred with her desperation. She, Solen Monteverde, princess of high society, reduced to this. Stranded in a remote village with a mysterious driver and his annoyingly cheerful sisters. She looked at the endless rice paddies, at the muddy path leading away from the kubo, at her ridiculously expensive, now ruined, designer luggage, which Jackson had apparently retrieved from the car. Then, she looked at Jackson, at his calm, unyielding face. Irritation. Frustration. And if dawning, horrifying realization that she was well and truly, royally stuck. Fine, she huffed, crossing her arms. I'll stay. But don't expect me to like it. And don't expect me to eat carabao. Jaya and Lilith giggled. Jackson just sighed, a small, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. Ang babaeng may designer luggage sa gitna ng palayan. Solen Monteverde's new, unwanted reality had just begun. And it was going to be a bumpy, muddy, and probably hilarious ride. Being stuck in New Rive. Maligaya was Solen Monteverde's personal hell. Walang aircon, walang wifi, walang room service, at higit sa lahat, walang makakausap na matino, sa tingin niya. Jackson was mostly out during the day, helping his father, Mang Jose, the quiet, hard-working farmer, in the fields. Si Jaya at Lilith naman, though incredibly sweet and well-meaning, were just too provincial for Solen's taste. They talked about anihan, tungkol sa mga manok na alaga nila, at sa upcoming barangay fiesta. Boring. Pero ang pride ni Solen, hindi basta-basta matitinag. Since no one was offering to bring her back to Manila, and she definitely wasn't going to walk, she decided she had to do something. Hindi pwedeng nakatunganga lang siya sa kubo all day, looking like damsel in distress, though, in her mind, she kind of was. So, out of sheer boredom and a stubborn refusal to appear completely useless, Solen started attempting to do simple chores. Emphasis on the attempting. Her first TSA at pagsasaing, cooking rice, resulted in a burnt pot and rice that was hilaw sa gitna. At Solen, okay lang yan, Jaya had said kindly, trying to salvage what was left. Practice lang po yan. Solen just scowled. How hard could it be to cook rice? Even their maids back in Manila could do it perfectly. Then, she tried pagwawalis, sweeping, the dusty salon, under the house. She ended up sweeping the dust pabalik inside the kubo, much to Lilith's amusement. Ate Solen, parang naglalaro lang po kayo ng alikabok, eh. Lilith had giggled. Solen wanted to throw the walis ting-ting at her. Her fail moments became a source of quiet entertainment for Jaya and Lilith, and probably for Jackson too, though he never said anything, just watched her with that annoyingly calm, unreadable expression. Solen felt a mixture of frustration and a strange, unfamiliar feeling vulnerability. Dito, sa Rive. Maligaya, she wasn't Solen Monteverde, the rebellious heiress. She was just Solen, the clumsy city girl who couldn't even cook rice properly. Kung hindi ako prinsesa dito, ano ako? Isang pabigat na naman? The thought stung. Pero, surprisingly, Jaya and Lilith were incredibly patient. They never made her feel stupid, though Lilith's giggles were a bit much sometimes. Instead, they started teaching her. Jaya showed her how to properly wash clothes in the batis stream, how to hang them on clothesline made of abaca string. Lilith taught her how to feed the chickens, how to gather eggs without getting pecked, and even how to make lumpia from scratch. The lumpia-making session was a turning point. At first, Solen was all thumbs, her wrappers tearing, her feelings spilling out. Pero Jaya and Lilith were so encouraging, their laughter genuine and warm, that Solen found herself actually enjoying it. They sat together on the bamboo floor of the kubo, their hands busy, sharing stories, laughing. It was a simple, authentic bonding moment, the kind Solen had never experienced before. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt included. As days turned into weeks, Solen slowly, almost imperceptibly, started to adapt. She learned to wake up to the sound of roosters instead of her alarm clock. She learned to appreciate the taste of freshly brewed kapeng barako, and the sweetness of ripe mangoes picked straight from the tree. She even started to find a strange sort of peace in the quiet hierarchical of provincial life. And Jackson. Jackson remained an enigma. He was still quiet, still reserved. Pero napapansin ni Solen yung mga subtle acts of care. He'd leave a fresh coconut for her on the table in the morning. He'd make sure the lampara, oil lamp, in her room was always filled. Minsan, nahuhuli niya itong nakatingin sa kanya, a strange softness in his eyes, bago ito mabilis na umiwas. The kilig was a teeny, hesitant flutter in her chest, something she tried to ignore but couldn't quite suppress. One late afternoon, sudden downpour caught them all by surprise. Jackson, Mang Jose, and Solen, who had reluctantly agreed to help them in the vegetable patch that day, mostly out of boredom, were caught in the middle of the field. They rushed back to the kubo, drenched to the bone. That night, Solen started to feel unwell. Her head ached, her throat was sore, and she was shivering despite the thick blanket Jaya had given her. She had caught a bad cold, probably from getting soaked in the rain. "Ate Solen, nilalagnat ka yata," Lilet said, her voice filled with concern after touching Solen's forehead. Solen just groaned. Great. Just what she needed. Jackson, who had been quietly observing her, suddenly sprang into action. "Jaya, Lilet, kumuha kayo ng maligamgam na tubig at bimpo," he instructed his sisters. "Ako na ang bahala kay Maam Solen." He gently helped Solen lie down, propping up her pillows. He expertly checked her temperature, using an old thermometer, not the digital kind Solen was used to. He carefully wiped her forehead and neck with the damp cloth, his touch surprisingly gentle. He even managed to coax her into drinking a bitter herbal concoction Mang Jose had prepared. "Gamot yan ng mga ninuno namin," Mang Jose had said. "Mas mabisa pa sa anumang gamot sa syudad." For the next few hours, Jackson stayed by Solen's side, quietly taking care of her. He refilled her water glass, adjusted her blanket, and even told her few corny jokes, which, to Solen's surprise, actually made her smile a little. His quiet strength and compassion were a revelation. This wasn't the aloof Monteverde driver, nor the mysterious farmer. This was Jackson. The man. As the fever started to subside and Solen began to feel little better, she looked at Jackson, who was sitting on a low stool beside her papag, his eyes heavy with fatigue, but still watchful. "Salamat, Jackson," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "You didn't have to do all this." Jackson just offered a small, tired smile. "Okay lang, Solen. Parte yan ng pagiging tagabagay. Maligaya. Nagtutulungan kami dito. Pero, I've been nothing but brat to you," Solen admitted, a wave of shame washing over her. "I mocked your home, your life. I've been awful." Jackson was silent for a moment. Then, he said, his voice soft, "You're not useless, Solen. You just never had the chance to choose. Palagi kang may sinusunod, palagi kang may ini-expect sa'yo. Dito, pwede kang maging kung sino ka man talaga." His words, so simple, so honest, struck chord deep within Solen. For the first time, someone saw her, not as Solen Monteverde, the rebellious heiress, but as just Solen. A person capable of more than just causing scenes and throwing tantrums. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the sound of the rain still drumming on the nipa roof. The kilig Solen felt was no longer hesitant. It was a warm, spreading feeling, sense of connection to this quiet, kind man who had shown her more genuine care in a few short weeks than her own family had in years. The vulnerability she felt was scary, yes. But it was also liberating. Dito, sa gitna ng palayan, sa isang simpleng bahay kubo, sa piling ng isang misteryosong driver na may malalambing na mata, Solen Monteverde was starting to find something she never knew she was looking for, chance to be herself. And maybe, just maybe, chance at a different kind of happiness. After recovering from her fever, something definitely shifted within Solen. Yung dating iritasyon niya sa Giris, maligaya, napalitan na ng isang kakaibang contentment. She started to genuinely enjoy her simple life. Tinutulungan na niya sina Jaya at Lilet sa mga gawaing bahay nang walang reklamo. Well, minsan may konting angal pa rin, pero progress yun. She even started helping Mang Jos in the vegetable patch. Her designer clothes now replaced yearly borrowed, comfortable pambahay. Natuto na siyang mag-appreciate ng sarap ng bagong pitas na kamatis, ng amoy ng lupa pagkatapos ng ulan, at ng katahimikan ng gabi na puno ng bituin. And Jackson, oh Jackson. He was a constant, quiet presence. They still didn't talk much, but their silences were no longer awkward. They were filled with unspoken understanding, with lingering glances, with growing awareness of each other. Bakit ako kinakabahan tuwing malapit siya? Solen would often ask herself. Yung simpleng pag-abot niya ng baso ng tubig, yung aksidenteng pagdikit ng mga braso nila habang nagtatanim, yung paraan ng pagtitig niya sa kanya habang akala niya hindi siya nakatingin, lahat yun nagdudulot ng kakaibang kilig sa dibdib ni Solen. A kilig that was both thrilling and terrifying. Then came the Girir. Maligaya Annual Fiesta. The whole village was abuzz with excitement. Banderitas of every color adorned the streets. A makeshift peria, carnival, was set up in the plaza, and the air was thick with the smell of lechon, bibingka, and other fiesta delicacies. Solen, to her own surprise, found herself caught up in the festive spirit. Tinulungan niya sina Jaya, Lilet, at ang ibang mga kababaihan sa barangay sa paghahanda ng pagkain para sa buong komunidad. Naghiwa siya ng sibuyas, at napaiyak, much to Lilet's amusement, nagbalat ng patatas, at natutong gumawa ng puto bumbong. It was tiring, chaotic, but also fun. She felt like she truly belonged, to part of this warm, vibrant community. The highlight of the fiesta was the sayawan sa plaza, dance in the plaza, at night. A live band played upbeat set songs, and everyone, young and old, was dancing. Solen, who was used to sophisticated ballroom dancing in Manila's high society events, found herself awkwardly trying to follow the steps of the tinikling and the cha-cha, laughing at her own clumsiness. Then, the band started playing a slow, romantic ballad. Couples paired off, swaying gently to the music under the starlit turf. Solen suddenly felt a pang of longing. She was about to retreat to a corner when a hand gently touched her arm. It was Jackson. He looked different tonight. Nakalinis na polo shirt siya, yung buhok niya, maayos ang suklay. At yung mga mata niya, when they met hers, held a warmth that made her heart skip a beat. Pwede ba kitang isayaw, Solen? He asked, his voice a little hesitant, a dead-eye smile on his lips. Solen's breath hitched. A sigh, she managed to say, her cheeks flushing. He gently led her to the dance floor. As he put one hand on her waist and took her other hand in his, jolt of electricity shot through Solen. She could smell his clean, masculine scent, feel the warmth of his body close to hers. Kinakabahan siya. Sobra. They swayed to the music, their bodies moving in a comfortable karakida. They didn't talk. They just danced. Under the soft glow of the lanterns and the explosion of fireworks that suddenly lit up the night, Solen looked up at Jackson. His eyes were fixed on hers, his expression intense, unreadable. The world around them seemed to fade away. It was just them, their hearts beating in unison. Slowly, he leaned closer. Solen's heart pounded in her chest. Was this it? Was he going to kiss her? She closed her eyes, her lips parting slightly in anticipation. The fireworks exploded again, series of loud bangs, and just as their lips were about to meet, Lalat's excited shriek cut through the moment. Kuya! Ate Solen! Ang ganda ng fireworks! Halika kayo, tingnan nyo! The spell was broken. They quickly pulled apart, their faces flushed, their hearts still racing. The almost kiss hung in the air between them, a tantalizing promise of what could be. The rest of the fiesta passed in a blur for Solen. The kilig from that almost kiss lingered, making her feel giddy and lightheaded. Jackson was unusually quiet, but there was new intensity in his gaze whenever he looked at her. Something had definitely changed between them. The next day, however, Solan's newfound happiness was shattered kay naging pagdududa. She had gone to the bayan to buy some supplies for Jaya and Lilith. As she was passing by a secluded alley near the municipal hall, she saw Jackson. He was talking to a man in a dark, expensive-looking suit, the kind of suit her father's business associates wore. The man looked out of place in their small provincial town. Their conversation was low, secretive, and Jackson looked tense. Worried, even. Then, Solan saw it. Jackson handed the man a thick, brown envelope. The man took it, nodded curtly, and then quickly walked away, disappearing into a waiting black car that sped off towards the highway. Solan's heart sank. Sino yung lalaking yun? Anong laman ng envelope? Bakit parang ang sekreto ng usapan nila? When Jackson returned to the kubo later that day, Solan tried to act casual. Saan ka galing, Jackson? May pinuntahan ka ba sa bayan? Jackson hesitated for a moment. Wala naman, he said, a little too quickly. Nagbayad lang ako ng lumang utang. Lumang utang? Sa isang lalaking nakasuit at may mamahaling kotse. Dahil didn't buy it yung pagdududa niya, lalong lumaki. Jackson was lying to her. Again. Sino ba talaga si Jackson? Ano ba talaga ang tinatago niya? The kilig she had felt just last night was now tainted with a bitter taste of suspicion. She had allowed herself to trust him, to open her heart to him, even just a little. Was she being a fool again? Was this all just another game? The image of Jackson handing over that thick envelope, his secretive demeanor, his lie about an old debt, it all replayed in Solan's mind. The mystery of Jackson, the man who was both a simple farmer and a mysterious driver, had just deepened. And Solan, despite her growing feelings for him, couldn't shake off the feeling that she was about to get hurt. Again. The image of Jackson secretly meeting the man in the suit, the thick envelope, his flimsy excuse about an old debt, lahat iyon, hindi maalis sa isip ni Solan. The pagdududa festered, eating away at the fragile trust she had started to build with him. Sino ba talaga si Jackson Ramirez? Yung simpleng driver at magsasaka ba na nagpatibok ng puso niya? O may mas malalim, mas madilim na sikreto itong tinatago? Determined to find answers, Solan started her own secret investigation. One afternoon, while Jackson was out in the fields with Mang Jose, and Jaya and Lilith were busy with their chores, Solan accidentally found herself in Jackson's small, sparsely furnished room in the kubo. Her heart pounded with guilt, but her desire for the truth was stronger. She started snooping. Under his banig, inside his old wooden ball chest, tucked away in the few worn-out clothes he owned. At first, wala siyang makita. Just simple, ordinary things. But then, hidden inside an old, hollowed-out bamboo tube that served as his piggy bank, she found them. A set of old, laminated V-cards. Not for Jackson Ramirez. But for A. Miguelito Jax S. De Leon. The gay photos showed a younger, more polished version of Jackson, clean-shaven, in a sharp suit, his hair neatly styled. He looked like a different person. Corporate executive, maybe. There was also an old company G from De Leon conglomerate, with his designation listed as the Vice President for Operations. De Leon conglomerate. Isa sa pinakamalaking kumpanya sa Maynila, the rival of her own family's Monteverde Group. Solan felt her blood run cold. Vice President. So, yung di simpleng driver na minamahal niya ay isa palang bigating executive mula sa isang kalabang kumpanya. At bakit siya nagtatago bilang Jackson Ramirez, isang hamak na magsasaka sa Gilgif? Maligaya? Her hands trembled as she found more old newspaper clippings detailing key corporate scandal involving De Leon conglomerate. Few years back, a missing executive named Miguelito De Leon, and vague accusations of betrayal and financial anomalies. Wala nang narinig tungkol sa kanya pagkatapos noon. Naglaho na parang bula. Gulat. Galit. Pagkalito. The emotions swirled inside Solen. All this time, Jackson, or Miguelito, whatever his real name was, had been living a lie. A much bigger, more complicated lie than she could have ever imagined. Just as she was trying to process everything, she heard the distinct whirring sound of a helicopter approaching. Helicopter! Dito sa Kyiv. Maligaya? Impossible. She rushed outside, just in time to see sleek, private helicopter landing in the middle of Mang Jose's newly harvested rice field, scattering chickens and startling the carabaos. And out of the helicopter, looking every inch the powerful, sophisticated Monteverde heiress, stepped her aide Savannah. Solen! There you are! Savannah exclaimed, her voice sharp and commanding, as if Solen was just a naughty child who had run away from home. Lolo Ricardo is worried sick. We've been looking for you everywhere. The entire barangay had gathered, their faces a mixture of awe and confusion at the sudden arrival of the helicopter and that artista-looking woman. At Savannah, what are you doing here? Solen stammered, still reeling from her discovery about Jackson. What am I doing here? Savannah scoffed. I'm here to rescue you, of course. From this hovel. And from him. Her eyes, cold and disdainful, landed on Jackson, who had just arrived from the fields, his face grim. Anong ibig mong sabihin, ate? Solen asked, sense of dread washing over her. Don't tell me you don't know, Solen, Savannah said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. This Jackson Ramirez, you've been shacking up with. He's no ordinary farmer. He's Miguelito de Leon. And guess what, little sister? He used to work for our family. For Monteverde Group. Solen's jaw dropped. What? Jackson. Miguelito worked for her family. He was one of Papa's most trusted executives, a rising star, Savannah continued, her voice loud enough for the entire barangay to hear. Until he betrayed us. He was involved in a scandal, tried to sabotage our company, then disappeared. And now, here he is, pretending to be a poor, humble farmer, causing up to in by gullible little sister. Tell me, Miguelito, Savannah turned to Jackson, her eyes blazing, sinadya mong lapitan si Solen, di ba? Para makaganti sa pamilya namin? Para gamitin siya? The accusations hung heavy in the air. The barangay folks gasped, their eyes darting between Savannah, Solen, and Jackson. Jaya and Lelet looked horrified, their faces pale. Mang Jose just stared at Jackson, deep, unspoken disappointment in his eyes. Jackson, Miguelito, didn't say anything. His face was a mask of. Solen couldn't tell. Pain? Guilt? Resignation? Sumagot ka, Miguelito. Savannah pressed. Is it true? Ginamit mo lang ba ang kapatid ko? Solen looked at Jackson, her heart shattering into a million pieces. All the trust she had painstakingly rebuilt, all the kilig, all the hope, it all turned to ash. He had lied to her from the very beginning. He had the hidden agenda. And she, like a fool, had fallen for it. Jackson ni. Solen whispered, her voice trembling, tears welling up in her eyes. Totoo ba yun? Sinadya mo to lahat? Jackson finally looked at her, his eyes filled with an emotion so profound, so painful, it made Solen's breath catch. He opened his mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. He seemed to deflate, all the fight gone out of him. Then, he did something that shocked everyone. He turned and walked away. Walang salita. Walang paliwanag. He just walked away, disappearing down the dusty path leading away from the kubo, away from the helicopter, away from Gyuriv. Maligaya. Jackson. Solen cried out, wanting to run after him, wanting to demand answers, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. As he reached the bend in the road, he stopped for a fleeting second, his back still to them. Then, his voice, low and filled with an unbearable sadness, drifted back to them. Kung yan ang iniisip mong ginamit kita, Solen, siguro nga, mas okay na rin sigurong mawala na lang ako. And then, he was gone. The gulat and galit Solen felt were overwhelming. He didn't even care aside to defend himself. He didn't even care aside to explain. He just left. Was that his admission of guilt? Savannah put comforting, yet triumphant, arm around Solen's shoulders. Come on, Solen. Let's go home. Let's forget this ever happened. We'll fix this. We always do, Dee. But Solen knew, deep in her heart, that some things couldn't be fixed. Her trust was shattered. Her heart was broken. And the man she had allowed herself to love, the man who had shown her different kind of life, different kind of happiness was Eli. Or was he? The lihim ni Jackson was out. And it had left trail of devastation in its wake. The helicopter ride back to Manila was a blur of confused emotions for Solen. Savannah, beside her, was all smug satisfaction, already planning how to manage the potential scandal. Don't worry, Solen, she'd said, patting Solen's hand condescendingly. Lola Ricardo will fix everything. We'll issue a statement, say you were just on a charity mission in the province. No one needs to know about that driver. Miguelito de Leon. Jackson Ramirez. Whoever he was, the thought of him, his quiet strength, his gentle eyes, the way he had looked at her before walking away, it brought a fresh wave of pain to Solen's already aching heart. Ginamit ba talaga siya? O biktima lang din ito ng mga pangyayari tulad niya? Pagdating sa mansyon, the Monteverde Patriarch, Don Ricardo, was waiting. He was furious, not just at Solen for running away, but at the potential damage to their family's pristine reputation. This Jackson, or De Leon, whatever his name is, Don Ricardo thundered, he will be dealt with. His reputation is already tarnished. If he ever tries to associate himself with the Monteverde name again, we'll personally see to it that he regrets it. See. Savannah chimed in, Papa is right, Solen. That man, his past will only ruin you. You're Al Monteverde. You deserve better. Someone more suitable. Their words, meant to be comforting, or perhaps controlling, only fueled Solen's confusion and a growing sense of defiance. Ruin her? Was her reputation, her suitability, more important than genuine human connection? Than the fragile happiness she had started to feel in Mirhiv? Maligaya? For days, Solen locked herself in her lavish room, refusing to see anyone. She replayed everything in her mind, her drunken escape, waking up in the kubo, her fail moments with the chores, Jackson's quiet care, the almost kiss at the fiesta, his secretive meeting, Savannah's accusations, and finally, his heartbreaking departure. She thought of Jaya and Lelet, their genuine warmth, their simple joys. She remembered Lelet's words, full of innocent admiration, Ate Solen, dito lang ako sa probinsya tinuruan paano magmahal ng totoo, yung walang halong pera o pangalan. Yung pagmamahal na nakikita ko sa inyo ni Kuya Jackson. Yun yung pangarap ko. Okay, maybe Lelet didn't say exactly that, but the sentiment was there in her innocent observations. Yung pagmamahal na nakikita ko sa inyo ni Kuya Jackson. Was it real? Or was it all just an illusion, product of her own loneliness and his deception? Then, her phone buzzed. It was a notification from the popular gossip blog. The headline screamed, Monteverde hears Solen's secret provincial escapade with disgraced ex-exec Miguelito de Leon. Scandal brewing. Someone had leaked the story. Probably Savannah, Solen thought bitterly, or someone from their camp, trying to control the narrative, to paint Solen as a victim and De Leon as the villain. The article was full of half-truths and malicious innuendos, portraying Jackson as a manipulative opportunist who had preyed on vulnerable, rebellious heroes. It painted the real Maligaya as a squalid, backward village. It was character assassination, pure and simple. And Solen snapped. This wasn't about her reputation anymore. This was about Jackson. This was about P. Reeve. Maligaya. This was about the genuine kindness and acceptance she had found there, something she had never truly experienced in her own gilded cage. With trembling hands, Solen opened her laptop. She logged into her rarely used public social media account, an account her family's team usually managed. And she started to type. She didn't defend herself. She didn't deny running away. Instead, she wrote about Piriv. Maligaya, its beauty, its simplicity, the warmth of its people. She wrote about Jaya and Lelet, their infectious laughter, their unwavering kindness. And then, she wrote about Jackson. Jackson Ramirez, or Miguelito de Leon, whatever name he chooses to go give, she typed, her fingers flying across the keyboard, is not Tiviling. He is a man who, like many of us, is trying to find his way. He showed me kindness when it was at the lowest. He taught me the value of hard work, of simplicity, of genuine human connection. Yes, there were secrets. Yes, there was pain. But there was also truth. It's truth that the Manila elite, with their perfect facades and calculated cruelties, will never understand. She ended her post with a simple, defiant statement, I am Solen Monteverde. And it will no longer be the burden or the decoration. I will find my own way. And I will choose my own happiness. And if that happiness includes the disgraced XXX, who knows how to make me laugh and how to plant rice, then so be it. She hit post before she could second-guess herself. The online world exploded. The Monteverde team went into overdrive. Don Ricardo was apoplectic. Savannah was surprisingly silent. But Solen didn't care. For the first time in her life, she felt free. She had spoken her truth. She had defended Jackson. She had defended Diril. Maligaya. She had defended herself. That same day, she packed a small bag, not with designer clothes, but with simple, practical things. She walked out of the Monteverde mansion, not with drunken stumble, but with newfound resolve in her eyes. She didn't go back to be Riv. Maligaya. Not yet. She knew Jackson needed space. And she needed to stand on her own 2 feet. She applied for a job. A real job. In a small, independent art gallery in quiet part of Manila. She used her real name, Solen Monteverde, but she made it clear, no special treatment, no Monteverde perks. She wanted to earn her place. The gallery owner, an eccentric, elderly woman named Lola Ingay, looked at Solen's resume, which was mostly blank, apart from her prestigious education, then at Solen's determined face. Alam mo, Hija, Lola Ingay said, a twinkle in her eye, may spark ka. Sige, bigyan kita ng chance. Pero magsisimula ka sa baba. Tagalinis ng sahig, tagatimpla ng kape. Kaya mo ba? Solen smiled, genuine, heartfelt smile. Opo, Lola Ingay. Kakayanin ko po. Her paninindigan was strong. Her pag-asa, though fragile, was real. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if she would ever see Jackson again. But she knew one thing, she was no longer the rebellious, lost bunso of the Monteverde clan. She was Solen. And she was finally ready to choose her own path, to find her own happiness, even if it meant walking away from everything she had ever known. Kaya ko na bang piliin siya? The question still lingered. But now, it was accompanied with another, more important question, kaya ko na bang piliin ang sarili ko? And the answer, for the first time, was a resounding, empowering, "Leith." Months passed. Solen thrived in her new, independent life. True to Lola Ingay's word, nagsimula siya sa baba. Tagalinis ng sahig, tagatimpla ng kape, tagabantay ng gallery. It was hard work, a far aside from her privileged upbringing, but Solen found a surprising sense of fulfillment in it. She was earning her own money, making her own decisions, building her own identity, away from the Monteverde shadow. Her online post defending Jackson had caused a massive uproar, but eventually, the scandal died down. Her family, after the initial fury, had surprisingly backed off. Maybe they finally realized that Solon was serious about finding her own way. Or maybe, just maybe, her defiance had earned her a sliver of the respect. Savannah even sent her a short, almost awkward text message. Proud of you, bunso. Ingat ka. It wasn't much, but for Solon, it meant the world. She rarely thought about Jackson anymore. Or at least, she tried not to, pero minsan, sa gabi, pag mag-isa na lang siya sa maliit niyang apartment, yung alaala niya, yung mga mata niyang malalalim, yung tahimik niyang ngiti, yung init ng kamay niya, bumabalik. At yung puso niya sumisikip. Pag-asa? O baka naman pagsisisi? Hindi niya alam. One rainy evening, Solon was working late at the gallery, preparing for a new exhibit. She was tired, a little lonely, but also content. She was making it on her own. As she was about to lock up, a figure emerged from the shadows of the rain-swept street. Solon's heart skipped a beat. The silhouette was familiar. Too familiar. Solon. That voice. The voice that had haunted her dreams for months. It was Jackson. Pero hindi na siya si Jackson Ramirez, ang gusgusing driver. He was dressed in a sharp, well-tailored corporate suit, his hair neatly styled. He looked like Miguelito de Leon, the vice president for operations. The same look was back. But his eyes, when they met hers, held the same soft, gentle warmth she remembered. The same eyes that had seen her, truly seen her, in Miviv. Maligaya. J. Jackson. Solon stammered, her mind reeling. Anong ginagawa mo dito? He stepped into the warm glow of the gallery, a small, hesitant smile on his lips. Hinahanap ka, he said simply. A whirlwind of emotions washed over Solon, gulat, lungkot, takot, at isang hindi maipaliwanag na kilig. Paano mo ako nahanap? Hindi naman mahirap hanapin ang isang Solon Monteverde na nagtrending sa social media dahil sa tapang at paninindigan, he said, the hint of admiration in his voice. He looked around the small gallery. You're doing well, Solon. I'm proud of you. Solon didn't know what to say. This was the man who had lied to her, who had walked away from her. But this was also the man who had shown her kindness, who had made her feel seen, who had stolen a piece of her heart. Bakit ka nandito, Jackson? She finally asked, her voice a little shaky. Oh, Miguelito. He winced at the name. Jackson na lang, Solon. Oh Jax, kung gusto mo. Yun ang mas totoo sa akin. He took deep breath. Nandito ako para humingi ulit ng tawad. Sa lahat ng kasinungalingan, sa lahat ng sakit. At para sabihin sa'yo yung mga bagay na hindi ko nasabi noon. He told her everything. About how, after leaving Biriv, Maligaya, he had finally confronted his own family, his own past. He had severed ties with the De Leon conglomerate, giving up his inheritance, his position. He had used his remaining personal funds to clear his name from the old scandal, which, it turned out, he was mostly framed for being a jealous relative. And then he had started over. I took back control of my life, Solon, he said, his eyes shining with new, quiet confidence. And I realized, yung passion ko, hindi lang sa pagpipinta o sa simpleng buhay. It's about helping people. Helping communities like Riv. Maligaya. He revealed that he had launched a new social enterprise, a company dedicated to helping small farmers and rural communities develop sustainable livelihoods through fair trade and technology. It was a small startup, but it was his. It was real. And now He paused, his gaze intense, searching hers. And now, nandito ako, Solon. Para itanong sa'yo isang tanong na matagal ko nang gustong itanong, pero natatakot ako sa sagot. Solon's heart pounded. Gusto mo pa rin ba ako, Solon? Jax asked, his voice raw with vulnerability. Kahit ngayon, hindi na ako yung driver na nakilala mo. Kahit ngayon, sinusubukan ko nang ayusin yung buhay ko, yung pangalan ko. Gusto mo pa rin ba ako, kasama ng lahat ng gulo at lahat ng bagahe ko. The rain continued to fall outside, gentle karikiban against the gallery window. Sa pagitan ng luha, na hindi namamalaya ni Solen na tumutulo na pala sa mga mata niya, at ng buwan na sumisilip mula sa mga ulap, bumalik siya. Ang lalaking minahal niya. Ang lalaking sinaktan niya. Ang lalaking hindi niya makalimutan. Solen looked at him, at Jax, the man who was both Jackson and Miguelito, the driver and the executive, the runaway and the rescuer. And she saw, not his past, not his name, not his money, or lack thereof, but his heart. A heart that, like hers, had been broken, but was slowly, surely, healing. Jax, Solen whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Gusto pa rin kita. Noon. At lalo na ngayon. A breathtaking smile lit up Jack's face. He closed the distance between them and pulled her into a hug that felt like coming home. It was a hug filled with forgiveness, with understanding, with a love that had survived secrets, lies, and heart touch. Mahal kita, Solen Monteverde, Jax whispered into her hair. Mahal na mahal. Mahal din kita, Jackson Ramirez o Miguelito de Leon o kung sino ka man, Solen whispered back, laughing through her tears. Basta ikaw. Ikaw lang. A few weeks later, they returned to Buhay. Maligaya. Not in a helicopter, but in Jack's old, slightly battered pickup truck, filled with seedlings and farming tools for his new social enterprise. The entire barangay was there to welcome them, their faces beaming. Jaya and Lelet hugged Solen tightly, tears of joy in their eyes. Mang Jos clapped Jax on the back, a proud, fatherly smile on his face. That night, Solen and Jax stood on the same spot in the rice paddy where Solen had first woken up to her nightmare. The moon was full, casting a silvery glow over the fields. The air was cool, filled with the scent of earth and blooming sampagita. Sabi ko na nga ba, hindi mo matitiis ang birjis. Maligaya, Jax teased, his arm around Solen's waist. Solen leaned her head on his shoulder. Hindi ikaw ang hindi ko natiis, Jax. Kundi yung ideya na mabuhay nang wala ka. He kissed her then, a slow, sweet kiss under the stars, a kiss that promised new beginning. Is beginning that wasn't perfect, that wasn't planned, but was undeniably, wonderfully, theirs. Sa pagitan ng luha at buwan, bumalik siya. At sa pagbabalik niya, dinala niya hindi lang ang sarili niya, kundi ang pag-asang matagal nang nawala sa puso ni Solen. Ang pag-asang pwede palang sumaya. Ang pag-asang pwede palang magmahal. At ang pag-asang, sa wakas, natagpuan na niya ang kanyang tunay na tahanan. Sige, narito ang isang taos-pusong mensahe mula sa akin, ang inyong lingkod na sumulat ng kwento ni na Solen at Jackson Jax. Isang mahigpit na yakap at konting punas ng luha mula sa inyong author. Mga #Team Solen at #Team Jax o baka #Team Jalen na tayo. Unang-una, gusto kong magpasalamat from the bottom of the writer's heart sa inyong walang sawang pag-abang at pag-emote sa bawat chapter ng kwento ni na Solen Monteverde at ng misteryosong si Jackson Ramirez, aka Miguelito, Jax de Leon. Grabe, from a drunken escape to Nipa hut in the middle of nowhere, hanggang sa mga pasabog na revelasyon at heart-stopping, almost, kisses, sinamahan niyo sila, at ako, sa kanilang roller coaster journey. Maraming salamat po. Habang isinusulat ko ang bawat eksena, feeling ko kasama rin ako sa Girjif. Maligaya, naamoy ko iyong putik, naririnig you. Sama ng loob, iritasyon, kikilig, pagdududa, nin. Minsan, kailangan nating maligaw para mahanap ang ating tunay na sarili at ang ating true love. Yung hindi lahat na nakikita natin sa labas ang siyang tunay na laman ng puso. We all. Ang tunay na pagbabago ay nagsisimula sa loob. Solen. Pag-ibig ay hindi tungkol sa yaman o estado sa buhay, kundi sa pagtanggap at pag-unawa. Kahit gaano pa kakomplikado ang nakaraan, o kung gaano man kalaki ang pagkakaiba, kung may tunay na pagmamahal, lahat yan kayang lampasan. You're not useless. You just never had the chance to choose. Isa to sa mga paborito kong linya. Minsan, ang kailangan lang natin ay pagkakataon para patunayan ang ating sarili at isang taong maniniwala sa ating kakayahan. Sana po, sa pagtatapos ng kwentong ito, may ngiti sa inyong mga labi, may konting care. At syempre, I would be over the moon, parang yung buwan na saksi sa reconciliation ni Solen at Jax, kung mag-iiwan kayo ng inyong mga comments, reactions, o kung ano mang feels nyo about the story. Favorite scene? Character na gusto nyong i-hug, o batukan, slight lang hehe. Most areku or sana all moment? I'm all ears or eyes, in this case. Maraming salamat ulit sa inyong suporta. Hanggang sa mga susunod pang kwentong susubok sa ating mga emosyon at magpapatunay na ang pag-ibig ay laging may paraan. Tandaan, sa pagitan ng luha at buwan, laging may bumabalik na pag-asa. Nagmamahal ng walang tinatagong yaman, kundi puro feels lang. Ang inyong manunulat,